Welcome to Nissa's Nursery. And today I'm taking you along on my day of repotting. So I generally have repotting scheduled 2 days a week, just to, whoever's ready to go into a larger pot will go, getting things ready for sale. And I've started offering another size, aside from established plants, also sets of seedlings as well. The number ranges from 2 to 6 in a punnet, just depending on the rarity, the use of the plant, that kind of thing. So single-use plants like radishes will come in 6. More rare plants like wormwood will be in sets of 2. So yeah, I have a little bit of a strength in repotting. I've heard that a lot of people do struggle with transplant shock and things like that. I'm completely self-taught, but I've always had a bit of a knack for it. So have a look, see if you can pick anything up. I'm certainly not saying that my way is the right way to go or the only way to go, but this is how I do it. Okay, so these guys are the ones that I've already repotted. They're just getting a little bit more established. Probably leave them a couple more days just to make sure that they're all established. As you can see, they're pretty well set up. Had a tiny bit of transplant shock with a couple of them, but largely they're looking pretty good. And these guys over here, they're pretty much ready to go to the store at this point. Cool, so the ones that I'm repotting today will be these guys. So we've got some miner's lettuce, some flowers, lettuce. These guys I'll leave. So pretty much just this tray here. So let's get started. So I've got my book of notes here. That tells me what's in what, categorized between a red and a black tray. The red tray has a little marking here, so I know that this is the black tray. Okay, so tools I use for this. I've got a little, like a push pop. My husband actually made this because the holes on the trays that I use are really tiny. I just use paddle pop sticks at this stage for naming. Got my dibber, and of course the little punnets themselves. I had misaligned these a little bit, so there is a method to my madness here. I can see that row 4, some of them are ready to go. So interesting thing about this is I don't actually know what these seeds are. I need to wait for them to grow up a little bit. My grandfather is he's awesome with bringing me seed, and kind of just brings them in a mixed packet. See if I've actually got it to show you. So this is it. I call it Pops Mix. And as you can see, there's just a range of seeds in that packet, and I kind of tried to remove some of the chaff from it, but I separate out the seeds, and there's some big ones, some little ones, and just plant them. And I just call it Pops something, describe the seed, and I need to wait for it to grow up to know what it is. So bit of a mystery, bit of fun. I have already identified some, but this one is a little bit of a mystery. It does look a little bit like the way poppies look when they grow, but I'm not sure. Have it described as a small seed, so it actually might be poppies. Well, we'll find out. Anyway, I'm going to repot them. Of course, I'm not going to sell them while I don't know what they are, but I want to grow them up and put them in my garden. So a punnet of my stuff here. This is my my super secret mix. It's what's in it is probably not a secret. Actually, to be honest, none of it's really a secret. But it's a mixture of coconut core, some potting mix, perlite, and worm castings. Have you ever noticed that you go online and you see, how to make a seed raising mix, for example, if you were to Google that, and it comes up with so many different, recipes or ideas. Seems like everybody's got an opinion on it. And why that is because different climates, different plants, different setups, greenhouse, outdoors, all have different requirements. And how can we possibly account for, everything everybody needs? Even, just in my area here, if you go 10 Ks down the road, it's a completely different biome than where I am here, which has its own different set of needs. And this is why I love experimentation so much, because it's not about studying, although studying is very good, but it's not about studying textbook, but rather trying out what works. And I think people get a bit stuck on being afraid of failure, but try a bunch of different things, see what works for you. And if it works and you get good results, then that's the right way. Cool. Okay. So if I'm right about these being poppies, I might just stick 4 in these, just until I can grow them up to put them in my garden a bit. This is the handiest tool, by the way. Look at this. Oh, yes. So these are definitely ready for transplanting. So the treatment that you didn't see of these before this repotting was they were very, very thoroughly watered from the bottom yesterday. So the soil and the core is still very, very moist, and that's what you want. There are actually 3 in here. The seeds must have been very tiny. So I'm going to try and separate these out without causing too much disturbance to the roots. So we're going to be really gentle, really, really, really gentle. If they're too entwined, I am inclined to leave them, but these guys look like they're going to come apart pretty well. So like I said, I haven't actually studied this or anything. I did a little bit of search just to prepare myself online when I first started, but a lot of it is by feel. And I think if you understand what the plant's doing with those roots, it's pretty easy to work out, how it needs to be treated. Just looking for one that I've only got 1 in. What's this guy doing? Seed migration happens sometimes. I try to be very careful when I water them, but sometimes they move to next door. Cool. Let's put this guy in. So you don't want the soil to be too compact. Like I'm not pressing it down. I'm just making sure that there's enough stability for the plant to be able to stand up. But you want it to be fairly loose, which is what's awesome about the perlite. It keeps it really, really kind of fluffy. But generally, all you need to do is a little bit of a tap. So tap, tap, and that will be enough density. So if I was to press down, you can see there's quite a bit of give, and that's not what we want. It makes it too difficult for the roots to get through. Dipper. I love to say that word. Dipper, dipper, dipper. All right. Let's grab this guy. I always think it's like tucking them into their new bed. Got some good healthy roots on these too. He's a little tall, a little straggly. There we go. All right. And these have 2 in them. Let's see if they'll come apart. Otherwise, we'll just put them in together. Very delicate. Oh, no problems. All tucked in. So if you saw my last video, which is how to fail efficiently, I talk about in there that the reason I know what I know is because I've made so many mistakes. I think it's a, oops, wrong one. I think it's a really, really good way to learn. But one of the mistakes that I did make, and some climates are more forgiving than others. The one I'm living in at the moment is very, very unforgiving. There's seasons. Where I came from before, there was really 2 seasons would be being generous. Really, it was hot and hotter. So aside from battling dehydration of the plants, it was actually, you know, they didn't move through the seasons, so it was a lot more forgiving. But here, having 4 seasons, 4 very distinct seasons, I've made a lot more mistakes here. And one of them was repotting. And I don't know if you've ever found that you've repotted something and it just doesn't survive. One of the factors is an inappropriately sized pot. So I've got 4 of these in here. Really, at the size that they are, they could even go to 6 quite happily. But if you look at how much space they've each got, it's a little bit bigger than the plant compared to, you know, these size, which was very tiny. But you wouldn't put this size seedling into, say, this size pot, because if you think about where the roots are, we've just put them down and they will extend down to look for air. And plants need oxygen just as much as we do. And if there's too much depth of that pot, they just can't get the oxygen that they need. It's too big and they'll start to suffer and probably die off. So you sometimes, depending on the plant, some plants don't like to be repotted, particularly like root vegetables and things like that. But depending on the plant, you might actually stage up the pots, particularly tomatoes and things like that. I'm going to mix these 2 with something else because I've only got 2 left. I know what the next row is going to be. There's actually no other mysteries, just these. Okay. So super, super gentle. What I'm doing is just ever so gently letting the soil fall away so that the roots can untangle. I'm not causing any resistance on them. Like there's no pulling. I'm just seeing if they come apart. If it got to the point where I was having to put pressure on them to pull them apart, I would just plant them together. You don't want to risk damaging those roots. And even some plants wouldn't be able to handle the treatment that I just gave to those. And considering I don't know what these are, maybe these won't either, but things like radishes or anything that doesn't want their taproot disturbed, I wouldn't do that too. All right, so let's make a little note to myself. That was row 4. And that's telling myself that I need to plant something new in there, which I won't be doing today. Okay, so rows 7 and 8 are minus lettuce. If you've never had minus lettuce before, I recommend finding some. They have the most ridiculously tiny little seeds, but it's such a cool plant. I've actually talked about it in my plant vlog before. It's a succulent herb that you eat as salad green. It's really cool, and it likes shade, it likes sun, it likes good soil, it likes poor soil. It loves cold temperatures, which is why I'm growing it at the moment. And you just can't keep it down. It's one of the easiest things that I grow to keep alive. If you've got a bit of a brown thumb, it's a good plant for that. But because it's so easygoing, it will spread, but it's fairly easy to keep it in check. So letting myself know that there's that, and also there. So all the pots that I use are actually upcycled, so I found them at tip shops. Sometimes people bring them to me, but I like the idea of not bringing more plastic into the world. And so far I haven't had to buy any new ones, so hopefully that keeps going. Okay, so I haven't pulled all of them out, and I won't repot this yet because I can see that there's still some coming through, even a little fella right there. So I'll probably come back and check this in about a week and repot it at that stage. Let's check out the bottoms here. So I'm looking for roots that are coming out the bottom, as well as the size that is on top, and don't want to repot these yet. Those are looking really, really good as well, but just want to tackle these guys on the ends. So this is a purple leaf, loose leaf lettuce. It's really good. These are actually the seeds that I saved in my seed saving video. So this is the second generation of this particular plant that I've got. And as you can see, they've done really, really well. So because this is a common variety lettuce, nothing too rare or exciting about it, although it is a very nice lettuce, I'm going to put it in packs of 6. Make sure there's enough room for him in there. Perfect. 2 in this one. Just going to leave those 2 together. They're quite little. So I just have these 2 extras left over here that won't make a full 6, and because I don't have any more lettuce at this stage to add to it, I'm just putting them in a little spare punnet that I've got. So these guys will likely go into my garden. Cool. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you got this far, well done. This was kind of just a day in the life kind of video of what I do on my Wednesdays and Saturdays normally. So don't forget to check out the links below for other places that you can follow me, lots of content, and I'll be back soon with another video.